welcome to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz, and it is Super Bowl week, everybody. Let's freaking go. Chiefs-Buccaneers, Super Bowl 55, LV. I love it. You love it. Let's talk Super Bowl 55. I have the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast regular joining me, Mr. Andrew Erickson. You can follow him on Twitter at Andrew Erickson _. Andrew, happy Super Bowl week.
Dude, it is arguably the best week of the year leading up to the Super Bowl. Absolutely love it. So excited. Everyone gets into the prop bets. We got some DFS going on. It's just a ton of fun for what should be, hopefully, a grand finale. I know we all project it to be a close game, and that usually happens, but sometimes it doesn't. Let's just hope that, we got Brady, we got Mahomes. That's what we wanted. So
entertainment. Feed it into my freaking veins. In this podcast, we're going to, alter up the order a little bit. It's the Super Bowl after all. Want to quickly go through some of the takeaways from the first matchup between these two teams back in week 12, go through some of the takeaways from the playoff run, then get into the nitty gritty, some of the key matchups in the Super Bowl, and then finish things off with some of our favorite bets, DFS, and of course, game predictions. So thank you as always for tuning in to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. Andrew, let's get things started with this first matchup. We had the the Chiefs went out to a 2-score lead almost immediately, held it throughout the whole game. Brady and company got them back into it towards the end, but truly the defining narrative was the Tyreek Hill problem. First quarter alone, 7 catches for 203 yards and 2 scores. He finished with 13 catches for 269 yards and a trio of scores. Why was Tyreek Hill so freaking unstoppable in this first game, Andrew?
Dude, Carlton Davis just was begging for Tyreek Hill to run some slants on him. He just was like, please, God, run some slants on me. That's the only thing I can stop. Basically, anytime Tyreek Hill was matched up with Carlton Davis, Mahomes is going right to him, whether it was in man coverage a lot of the time. If it was a one-on-one, matchup, Mahomes is just like, whatever, I'm going to my guy Hill, and Hill just beat Carlton Davis every single time. In coverage, 9 targets, 9 catches, 208 yards, and 3 touchdowns allowed by Carlton Davis with Tyreek Hill as the primary receiver. So the big difference is Jamal Dean didn't play in that game. So I think that is a big upgrade that the Buccaneers will have in the Super Bowl matchup, which we'll kind of get into a little bit more later on. But that is one thing. Carlton Davis is not a speed corner. He's a bigger corner, and he really struggled against trying to cover a guy like Tyreek Hill. And we've seen him before, though. He's played a lot better against the Michael Thomases, against Devontae Adams. Those are some better receivers that he better matches up with. The Tyreek Hill matchup was just absolutely brutal for Carlton Davis, and that's why we saw Tyreek Hill just absolutely go nuclear in that last matchup.
Yeah, Carlton Davis was really on his way to almost, getting in that kind of top 3 cornerback conversation before getting 200 put up on him. It reminded me of Amari Cooper just going off on Jair Alexander last year. And, it's such a hard thing for these shadow corners because, even just getting that, role from your coaching staff, having the trust in you to put you one-on-one against the team's best wide receiver, that alone should exclude you from any argument saying you suck or whatever. But man, you give up over 200 yards to a dude in a quarter. I understand why there was some backlash, but truly, Michael Thomas had 9 yards, 33 yards, and then 0 yards in Davis's direct coverage. Allen Robinson had the most other than Tyreek Hill at 62, but it took him 11 targets and 8 catches to get there. Devontae Adams, 33 yards, 31 yards. DJ Moore, 55 yards. Yeah, Carlton Davis, okay, Tyreek Hill, his speed presents a newfound problem. Tyreek Hill presents a newfound problem for everybody in the league, not just Davis. Hopefully getting Jamel back will help. That's a great point. With getting him back, and Vita Vea as well. This will be an improved and different Buccaneers defense than what the Chiefs saw before. But Andrew, let's face it, nothing worked against Patrick Mahomes in this first matchup. Tyreek was obviously the star of the show, but Buccaneers really didn't get anything going against Mahomes.
No, they really didn't. They tried blitzing him a little bit there too. 9 blitzes, and Mahomes just basically absolutely destroyed the blitz. I don't understand why teams blitz elite quarterbacks. It seems like it just doesn't ever work. You're basically just sacrificing another guy in coverage to maybe get pressure onto the quarterback when in most cases, especially with someone that's elusive like Mahomes or even like an Aaron Rodgers, especially even with Josh Allen this season, those guys all just destroyed the blitz. You just got absolutely nuked whenever you ran those types of plays. And that's what happened when the Buccaneers played the Chiefs in this first matchup. Mahomes 6 for 9 for 109 yards, 11.8 yards per attempt and 2 touchdowns. And on, of the 9 dropbacks in which he was blitzed, he only got pressured on 4 of them. So the other 5 that he just was able to throw the ball on, he just absolutely destroyed the Buccaneers defense. So that's going to be an interesting thing to look out for in this upcoming matchup. Will Todd Bowles continue to bring the blitz with all of his guys, or will he be more disciplined and be like, no, we're going to wait back, we're going to sit in zone coverage, and Mahomes is going to have to meticulously, trickle down the field, which is something that, for the most part, we don't think that the Chiefs really like to do. They want to score really fast. They want to put up points. That's what they want to do. But it'll be interesting to see if the Buccaneers are disciplined on defense to be like, no, like we're going to make them earn every single yard and not just give up the big play.
And as we've seen throughout this year, like it's not like this has necessarily been a kryptonite of the Buccaneers defense all season long. They've had a very good defense for most of the year. The Kansas City just exposed the hell out of it. I mean, when opposing quarterbacks have had at least 3 seconds to throw, the Buccaneers ranked 3rd and 7th in explosive pass play rate and yards per attempt allowed. Like they've actually still held up fine, even when the blitz doesn't get there, against mortals, not against Patrick Mahomes and these freaking dudes. It truly is amazing just how good the Chiefs have been with Mahomes against everything. We have all these really cool behind the scenes PFF stats where we can literally look at production against specific coverage types. And dude, I pulled everything: 2-man, cover 0, cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, quarters, cover 6, even in the red zone. The Chiefs have been a top 9 offense in EPA per pass play in every single one. And the only one they're outside the top 7 is cover 0. And honestly, like that's like their lowest kind of frequent one, because nobody wants to run cover 0 against the Chiefs. You're asking them to freaking throw one over
just
the head.
The Patriots that run cover 0. That's probably where the split is from. Just like from 1 or 2 pass attempts from when the Chiefs played the Patriots earlier this season.
Basically, man. So you can force him to get the ball out quick, but then you got to deal with Kelce and Tyreek Hill in space, or you can, invite him to sit back, pick you apart, or just take off and run. And now the fact that we're getting reports that Mahomes' foot is close to 100%, it's scary, man, because we all know how quickly they can hit those big plays. Again, that's exactly what we saw in that first matchup. But watching them just, nickel and dime the Bills efficiently as all hell, death by 1,000 paper cuts in that AFC Championship, almost more scary. So, I'm happy I'm not being paid to figure out how to stop this Chiefs offense, because to this point, I'm really not sure there is a way to do it. The one time that Mahomes has lost and seemed like somewhat mortal was a couple years ago against the Colts when they lost 19-13, and Tyreek Hill didn't even play that game. So, man, good luck, Tampa Bay. I think they're going to need to, probably win a shootout in this one. And to their credit, Tom Brady wasn't a good start. Started the game off with 4 punts, just 1 first down. But afterwards, this Buccaneers offense moved the ball pretty well.
Hey man, the Chiefs ended their game with 3 punts. So
Okay.
don't necessarily, Brady started out slow. He definitely started out slow. But something that I noticed and I picked up when I looked at the splits from his first half to his second half that really stuck out to me was the first half. He threw the ball to the slot 1 time. He threw 1 target to the slot the entire first half of the game. And for more intensive purposes, it's been the slot that has had the most success, whether it's from receivers or the tight end position playing against the Chiefs. Looking at most of the metrics, it's really hard to parse between, the Chiefs are really bad against slot receivers, or they're really bad against, perimeter receivers. They're really good against kind of both of them. But if you're going to lean towards one, it is the slot they are a little bit more vulnerable to. And that's what they made the adjustment. The Buccaneers started to throw to the slot a little bit more. In the second half, Brady was 9 for 13 for 109 yards and 1 touchdown. So you see, obviously, Chris Godwin is the primary slot receiver, but Mike Evans also plays a lot in the slot as well, which, again, people kind of pigeonhole him as this outside wide receiver, but he really moves around in the formation quite often. He's actually pretty efficient when he does move into the slot as well, actually more efficient than Chris Godwin. So that's something that they need to continue to do from the get-go, is make sure that they're using Godwin and Evans in the slot and really looking to, just sacrifice, whether it's Scotty Miller, Antonio Brown, Tyler Johnson, one of these other receivers out to the outside, just be like, hey, just run some sprints, run some go routes. You're fine.
Yeah, and I wonder if potentially not having Antonio Brown out there could lead to even more Evans in the slot, because he was hitting literally 30 snaps per game in the slot before they got AB in action. Obviously changed things with adding another wide receiver to his caliber. But, you put Scotty Miller on the outside, it would make sense to have Evans inside a little more. But yeah, man, so as I was saying, 4 punts, 1 first down. But after that, drive 5 for the Buccaneers. They go 86 yards for a touchdown. They kneel at the end of the half, 67-yard field goal drive. Then Brady throws back-to-back interceptions, one on an underthrown deep ball. He got pressured a little bit. Another one got batted. I think he actually threw it off the defender's helmet at the line of scrimmage. Either way, these were 2 interceptions that were, actually going into Chiefs territory. And then he finishes the game off with back-to-back 70-yard touchdown drives. So no, Brady did not play great. I'm not trying to say ignore those 2 interceptions or anything like that, but realize that they were consistently moving this ball, particularly in the second half. And hey, man, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans in the slot, that makes sense to attack them there. So I like that, and we'll see if they continue to combat that part of them. The the problem is, I guess we'll just kind of stick with what's been going on with the Buccaneers here throughout the playoffs now. Like Brady, he's been playing good, not great in the playoffs, man. Like, I understand win's a win. He looked spectacular in that first half against the Packers, but he's shown us some highs and lows so far.
I agree. He's definitely not been the crisp Tom Brady that has been, an MVP candidate necessarily so far in the playoffs. Again, the 55% completion percentage is probably the worst, I believe, of all quarterbacks in the playoffs that are left. I think there may be one guy, in there that, eliminated in the wild card round or something like that. But I mean, he's not getting a ton of help from his receivers. He has like 12 drops on the year. But when you factor in even adjusted completion percentage, which actually kind of takes into consideration the drops, it still like ranks near the bottom. So yes, he's not, completing as many passes as maybe as we'd like to see. But at the same time, he's also throwing the ball downfield probably more often than any other quarterback, which is naturally just going to cause more incompletions. And it's the upside you're getting. So, okay, they're completing less 3-yard gains. And I think the big thing too is they're just running the ball so much on early downs. Like, it's honestly putting Brady in really not great spots for him to succeed. If you look at how many third and longs that they faced last week, they faced 8 third and longs where I'm looking at 7 yards or more. And Brady was nearly perfect on all of them. 153.3 passer rating. Bruce Arians is doing nothing to help him by just making them run the ball on first and second down with Fournette and Ronald Jones. And yet Tom Brady is going, 6 for 8 on third downs with a whopping 141 yards passing, 17.6 yards per attempt. And Tampa Bay continues to run the ball on first down 65% of the time.
I saw, I think it was Steven Ruiz, who is a great Twitter follower for everyone out there, writes at the Win, I believe. But he had a point where it was like Bruce Arians, and it was like, Bruce, like, tell us about like your go-to play. And it was like 22 duo or just some, some run like up the middle. And Steven was just like Chiefs by 30 or whatever. So yeah, man, like for someone that made their living, no risk it, no biscuit. We've been standing Bruce for years. Like, now, why is he picking now to take his foot off the gas? Brady's been throwing the deep ball better than ever. The times we have seen Brady look mortal has been due to pressure. He's only completed 6 of 21 passes when not kept clean this postseason. He actually had the 7th most severe drop off in yards per attempt when under pressure versus when he's kept clean. Like, that has been his problem this year. You would think you could have him throw more in situations where defenses won't be bringing that sort of pressure, like a 1st and 10, like a, second and short. But at the end of the day, the Bucs have run the ball on 1st and 10 on 52% of their chances this season. That's the 7th highest mark in the league. And look, I understand that, here at PFF, it's like, in our job description to bitch about, teams like running the ball too much and whatever every single time, never, ever run the ball. But like, they're not even doing it well. And that's the frustrating part for me. I mean, you look at those situations where they're running in 1st and 10, and like they're in the bottom 8 offenses in terms of just yards per carry and explosive run play rate. So it'd be one thing if they were running on early downs and having a bunch of success with it, but they're just seemingly being like stubborn about it. So kind of take us into our next point about, playoff Lenny. We all love it. Great shtick. I appreciate it. The guy's been playing well. He's probably going to be leaned on far more than any Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan would want, though, this week.
I'm going to have to agree with you there. Playoff Lenny is definitely a thing, and there's going to be no incentive for Bruce Arians to stop running the ball on first down, because when you look at the Chiefs last 4 weeks, they've allowed 5 yards carry to running backs on first down. So again, I don't love it. I wish the Chiefs would, just stack the box, but they're probably going to invite it because that's what they want. They want Brady to have to throw it on 3rd and long potentially, and that's where their defense is at its best, where it can create turnovers, because that's kind of what the defense is. That's kind of both defenses in this matchup are really defense that we're not trying to stop you. You can't pick up any yards, like throw the ball against us, and we're going to make turnovers and create interceptions, get sacks, things like that. But yeah. Leonard Fournette, again, outtouched Ronald Jones last week, 17-10, 69% snap share, in the NFC Championship game. And yeah, I mean, Leonard Fournette's really been the guy. It's really the pass catching usage. And it's so weird because he just makes these terrible drops too. And they just keep going back to him just because at this point, like, who else are they going to turn to? They can't look to Ronald Jones. His hands are even worse. He has 1 catch since week 15. Leonard Fournette has 27. So the pass catching role is solely his, and that really works well in the matchup against the Chiefs, who have given up the most receiving yards to running backs this season. And then with Ronald Jones, it's just, yes, he's an early down grinder, and there's been at times where he's been a more efficient runner. I think that if I had to take one guy to be my, early down back, I would still prefer Jones. I think he does still offer a little bit more juice, and potentially in this matchup, I wouldn't surprise me at all to see him potentially break off a big run, especially coming off 2 weeks of rest. We know he's been banged up with a quad injury. He's had that finger injury as well, but he's not going to catch any passes at this point. So at least with Fournette, you can have the confidence, hey, he's going to be reliant on the passing game, which if the Buccaneers are trailing, that means Fournette's going to get a lot of usage there, and he's still going to be the quote-unquote starter, get the majority of work on early downs. And really, unless he's like super inefficient, I can't really see them just turning to Ronald Jones, unless, for a series or two.
Yeah, over the past 2 weeks, Keyshawn Vaughn has played 0 snaps after losing a fumble in the wild card role. That's kind of funny. Maybe potentially a 2-time Super Bowl champion, LaShawn McCoy, which just sounds ridiculous to say. Yeah, revenge game. Right?
Because he didn't get to play.
Oh my God. I really hope he's not a healthy scratch 2 Super Bowls in a row. That'd just be too much. I miss Eagles. I miss mid 2010 Shady, man. That dude used to literally cut on a dime like no other, but he's played 3 snaps with no rushes or targets over the past 2 games. It's going to be Fournette and Ronald Jones. I do wonder, I know Fournette's probably still going to be the pass catching guy, because I agree with you. I mean, as bad as his hands are, Rojo's are somehow worse. But Ronald Jones, he's been dealing with his quad issue. Now he's had an extra bye week to get healthy. He's still had 23 carries over the past 2 games. Man, we'll talk about DFS later, but that discrepancy with Ronald Jones sitting at 2,200 on DraftKings, he's the cheapest guy on the slate. I think we can feel even somewhat good about his workload with.
I agree. I think that Ronald Jones is going to be a value in DFS. It really just depends on ownership, because we're having this conversation right now. And if it becomes a point where, Ronald Jones just generates so much hype that, he could potentially be the guy, then actually, it causes an issue where Leonard Fournette then becomes the actual play. And in reality, he is the play. He is the clear, running back option you want in this game. Just because Ronald Jones also is totally game script dependent. If the Chiefs or if the Buccaneers fall behind in any way, shape, or form, Ronald Jones he's on the bench. Yeah. That's where he is. Next to LaShawn McCoy.
There is a very, very low floor there for Rojo and the artist formerly known as Shady Indeed. All right. So they'll run the ball more than we want to, but let's face it, the big plays are going to be coming from this passing game. Antonio Brown, again, hasn't been practicing. He's still dealing with this knee injury. We'll see, though. And you know what? As good as AB still is, maybe he's not, the same world beater we saw for the better part of the last decade, but still anyone's idea of, at minimum, an above average wide receiver. They look pretty okay with Scotty Miller and even Tyler Johnson out there. I mean, Andrew, I don't want to say, in our notes, I said this wide receiver group is low-key littered with ballers. I think it's probably high-key at this point. We're going to the Super Bowl. But, man, it's far more than just Evans and Godwin out there.
It's almost the complete opposite of the Chiefs offense, where it's so concentrated on Hill and Kelce, whereas the Buccaneers offense is just across the board. There's just so much depth, and all of these receivers can do different things. You have Mike Evans, who is your, quote unquote alpha wide receiver on the outside. He's a jump ball guy. He can get open with route running. He's an end zone guy. He can do all those things. And you have Chris Godwin, who's a slot receiver, but can also, win downfield. He's really underrated as a downfield threat. He's caught in a lot of deep passes from Brady over the last couple of weeks. So those 2 top guys are, anyone's idea of a top wide receiver unit, top 2 wide receiver duo in the NFL. So then you have, adding to the mix, Antonio Brown, obviously, who's been one of the NFL's best wide receivers at points in his career. He had a stretch where he was clearly the NFL's best wide receiver. And then you mix in some of these lower, not as well-known guys. Scotty Miller, yes, he is a white receiver, but he does not play the slot. That's just not his role. I get everyone's trying to make him Edelman and Wes Welker and all these guys for Tom Brady in the offseason, but we all knew it. We all knew, dude, this guy's fast. He's a vertical receiver on the outside. And we saw in the NFC Championship game when he absolutely, burned Kevin King on that deep touchdown to give the Buccaneers another touchdown before heading into halftime. So he's got wheels. And Tyler Johnson, dude, I am excited to talk about him next year heading into the draft. Chris Godwin, I think that he's going to probably re-sign with the Bucs, but Tyler Johnson is going to give it all to try to get a job in this Buccaneers offense any way, shape, or form. Maybe it takes till 2022 until Chris Godwin is gone, potentially, for him to have a full-time role. But I mean, I was looking at some of the Minnesota stuff when I was researching Rashad Bateman, who's a draft prospect for this season, and Tyler Johnson kept popping up everywhere. And I was like, who is this? This is the same Tyler Johnson? It's like, the guy has a great college profile. And, just when he's made catches this season, I don't know. When Brady throws in the ball, it just gives me these Malcolm Mitchell type vibes where I'm just like, Brady trusts this rookie receiver, this 5th round rookie, kind of flying under the radar, but Brady seems to trust him. And I would not be surprised at all if he has a key catch in this game.
Yeah, I'm fully anticipating Scotty gaining most of the DFS ownership and being the more popular play. But, neither of these guys are going to see more than 3 targets. It wouldn't be the craziest thing if Tyler happens to make more out of his 1 or 2 than Scotty. Man, the Scotty Miller, him roasting, who was it? Kevin King? Yeah, Kevin King, 2 weeks ago in the NFC Championship. Like, I have this ongoing just shtick that at least I think is funny on my Twitter, where anytime a white guy does anything, I go, oh, what a gritty gym rat, coach's kid, first one in, last one out. Patriots wide receiver-esque play by them. So I'm being, or trying to be funny about it. Well, Chris Carter comes out like this week and unironically says no. The only reason he got open was because the cornerback underestimated him for being white. So whatever it is, man, Scotty Miller certainly can get behind dudes on the outside. And yeah, he is a force to be reckoned with as a true field stretcher. He's caught 8 of 9 catchable downfield throws, at least 20 yards downfield for 312 yards and 3 scores. He's truly been doing it all season. And yeah, man, it will be interesting to see where Chris Godwin goes if he comes back. Because if not, that slot position will seemingly be Tyler Johnson's. If, quickly off subject a little bit, if Chris Godwin does lead, do you have a preferred landing spot for him?
Dude, he's just so good wherever he would go. I don't know if there's a spot wherever a quarterback. I mean, I think that the Colts make a lot of sense, but it depends on what they do at quarterback, because he would automatically become the alpha there. So in a dome, I would really love that to see. Maybe wherever Deshaun Watson goes, let's go with that. Chris Godwin, just follow Deshaun Watson. We have we have this list of free agent receivers that all have Deshaun Watson on speed dial, just waiting for the call. Like Deshaun, like, where are we meeting up like the Avengers? It's like, hey, last year Tom brought everyone to Tampa Bay. Is it going to be everyone just goes to Indianapolis? Just like, hey, they play in a dome. Like, this will be great. Let's all go to Indy.
I'm going to throw one out there. He wouldn't be the alpha, but Arizona, man. Larry Fitz leaving the slot there. We know they love their screens. Godwin's a yak monster. Don't be discounting that. I threw up a wide receiver wish list and had Godwin going to Arizona, and everyone's saying, oh, I don't like that fit. Let's get Kyler Murray multiple good weapons. They want to run 4 wide receivers. I would like to see them complement him or nuke with someone other than Christian Kirk. I'm not giving up yet, but hey, let's get the guy some more weapons. But let's reverse course a little bit, go over to the Chiefs and some things we've learned about them in the playoffs. And I think one of the big storylines we've touched on already a little bit, but Mahomes, like his health, man. And it wasn't always, obviously the concussion kind of dominated the storylines, but the toe injury was arguably, more impactful just in terms of, will he be at 100% once he's out there? You either clear the protocol or you don't. Once he clears that, we're seemingly hoping he's okay. But the toe is the issue. It seems like he's just fine though.
I'm not worried about him, and I'm probably going to play some bets on his rushing props on the over for Patrick Mahomes, because up until this point, basically until this last game and the game where he got hurt, we've always seen him hit his rushing ceiling in these playoff and postseason contests. So I think that his rushing prop right now is at like 20 yards on most books. So that's something that I really am now taking, more consideration into, especially, that we're talking about this right now. You mentioned that, Mahomes is, he's practicing in full with the toe. Like, it's not an issue. He's back almost to 100%. So that's the news I want to hear. And that's the news that you want to jump on, as these books start to update their lines and on certain props. So I think that Patrick Mahomes is in solid shape. I mean, last week, look, he didn't rush for any yards. He had 5 attempts and no scrambles, but he was fine moving around in the pocket, which is really more or less what he wants to do anyway. But it's a Super Bowl. Like, the guy's going to ball out and do whatever he can to win the game. He's facing Tom Brady. Like, he doesn't have a choice but to lay it all on the line because it's known as the Super Bowl, and that's what he always does in the playoffs anyway. So I would expect nothing less than for him to continue to be able to use his legs. And he's probably going to have to, because that pass rush is going to be coming.
As Dan Fouts once said, last game of the year, Brent can't hold anything back now. And you look at Mahomes in these 7 career playoff games, first year, 8 rushing yards, 11 rushing yards. In the playoff, in the Super Bowl run last year, 53, and then 29, and had 14 and then 5. So, 20 is probably a good line, but we've also seen him score, 4 touchdowns in that span. So if you like, I believe he's at plus 1,800 to score the first touchdown of the game. I don't hate it. They are not afraid to use him on option looks around the goal line. And again, if we are getting reports that his his foot is closer to 100%. We know how his foot got hurt in the first place, them running one of these design QB runs. But yeah, and it doesn't even need to be that, man. He's tied for 5th with 8.3 yards per scramble over the last 2 seasons. Only Taysom Hill, Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, and Ryan Tannehill have been better. It's almost unfair how good Mahomes can still be athletically and also have, the arm to put it anywhere he wants on the field. But hey, I guess that's why the Chiefs have been so damn good. And it might honestly need to be him to kind of carry the load on this run game, because it doesn't really look like the Chiefs are going to be running the ball with the running backs too much here, Andrew.
Got to take the unders on all of the Chiefs rushing props on these running backs, just because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to stop this running game for the Chiefs. Maybe the Chiefs, deal with it a little bit in the first half. They dabble in it. They give Clyde Edwards-Helaire a couple carries, maybe get Le'Veon Bell in the game. He might be inactive. Who knows? Darrell Williams, give him a carry here or two. But I mean, the Bucs defense has just been elite against the run all season long. And, Vita Vea was on a pitch count last week, and now he's probably going to be in full. And he was arguably their best defensive player before he got hurt. And it didn't stop them at all from being an elite defense up front against the running back. So for me, those running backs are just so tough to analyze from a rushing perspective. And really, you got to look at them from a passing game perspective and see, okay, which one of these guys is going to be used in the passing game. We've seen Darrell Williams kind of be in that role for a lot of the season, but last week we saw Edwards-Helaire, run more routes than Darrell Williams, which is something that I look at. Again, the targets weren't really there for either of them last week, but Edwards-Helaire was kind of the starter. He played a 70% snap share for the first 3 quarters, and then after that, there are mixed reports. Some people have said, or I've read some things, that he got hurt and they took him out, or he was being inefficient, so they benched him. I mean, I was more intent, like the way I thought of it was the fact that Edwards-Helaire, they were kind of in control of that game at that point. So it was like, hey, let's take him out. Like, let's rest him. That's the way at least I looked at it. And that's why I think Edwards-Helaire is still kind of the guy we should view as the starter in this matchup. Ian, do you kind of think differently about the split?
I would lean towards Clyde, but I do think it's still going to be 2 backs. Yeah, and it would be kind of funny if poor Le'Veon, but if they keep bringing in these veteran running backs only to make them a Super Bowl healthy scratch, it's like, come on, guys.
Next year it's going to be Todd Gurley.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's actually a pretty decent call. But yeah, no, I think the answer to Clyde Edwards-Helaire versus Darrell Williams is probably just no, or, bet the unders, because, Tampa, they dare teams to pass. And that's why they faced the highest percentage of pass plays with at least 8 defenders in the box in the league this year. So yes, they have a fantastic run defense, but they have a fantastic run defense because it's pretty much their single focus trying to shut it down. And again, usually when they're not playing the Chiefs, it's okay. They still hold up fine in the back end, even when, they aren't able to get pressure with some of those ferocious guys they got in that front 7. But the Chiefs aren't like everyone else, man. They rank dead last in run play rate in the first half this year. I mean, they show up in the stadium with the intent of throwing all over you and doing it in a hurry. Somehow, they, again, were up multiple scores pretty much the entire game in week 12. They called 20 runs in 70 plays. Like, I don't know what it's going to take in this one for Mahomes to, have anything under 30 pass attempts. And, that was the Bills' strategy as well. And it worked the first time around. The second time around, they pretty much, they left the running lanes open again, and Mahomes decided to dink and dunk and do freaking magician shit because he's the best quarterback alive for pretty much the entire game. So yeah, it's one of these situations where I don't want anything to do with the Kansas City running backs, because I don't think they want anything to do with their running backs. So expect them to air the hell out. And hey, when you got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, it makes sense. Andrew, I mean, these guys are, I think, at this point, without doubt, the number 1-2 punch in the league.
They have to be, talking about just looking at the last game they played, 72% of the team's targets went to Hill and Kelce, and 89% of the team's passing yards went to these 2 guys on the same team. So, and that's the thing, you have this duo where that was what the Bills were lacking. They had Diggs, but they didn't have anybody else that could really step up and take pressure off Diggs. But here you have Tyreek and Kelce, who just, honestly, it reminds me a lot of kind of like Randy Moss and Wes Welker, where you have this guy that's just such a threat on the outside and everyone needs to pay attention to him at all times. And you just have the other player that just eats over the middle of the field and gets all the targets. And that's kind of what it reminds me a lot of. It's just they're very opposite players. They don't have a similar skill set, but it's because of that. They don't have any overlapping skills necessarily, where that's what makes it so effective for their offense. And when you combine that with Patrick Mahomes, that's just what you get. You get the best offense in the NFL. And it really shouldn't come as a surprise that we saw this offense be so efficient when Alex Smith was the quarterback, because these guys were on the roster. And then when you add in, okay, now let's add an elite quarterback. Oh, boom. Now we have the best offense in the NFL, and we've literally lost one game all season.
Yeah, and what makes it even just harder to wrap your mind around is the fact that, like, all right, you would think that Tampa Bay giving up that many yards and that much production to Tyreek Hill, like, okay, they must have just been focusing on Travis Kelce and shut him down. Nope, he caught all 8 of his targets for 82 yards. Like, these two have just been unsolvable. It's not like teams are picking one or the other. They're just freaking getting gashed by both of them. And you know what? I think it's like, I would say that, I wrote an article last week called basically saying Tyreek Hill is the key that unlocks the best version of the Chiefs offense. And I do agree with that. Just having that speed. I mean, this dude has been considered open or wide open on 31 targets, 20 plus yards downfield over the past 3 years. Nobody else is even at 25. Like, okay, we know Mahomes can put that thing on a dot, however far downfield he wants. Half the time, Tyreek has a good 5 yards on the dude, and they don't even need to make it hard for him. So Tyreek's got that going. And then we got Kelce, who we call a tight end still, but man, like one of the easiest ways you can just point out someone that just is not watching the games is like, oh, Kelce makes his living on linebackers and safeties. Bro, he put Denzel Ward in a blender in that Browns game and then proceeded to truck some safety on his way into the end zone. He's been averaging over the past 3 years 2.54 yards per route run from the slot or out wide. Not as a tight end, as a pure wide receiver. That's 4th among all players with at least 100 targets. Again, he is a number 1 wide receiver that we happen to call a tight end. It's a shame. I wish, he would be considered a wide receiver because he'd be making a hell of a lot more money than he currently is. But that's going to pretty much wrap up our playoff recap. Before we get on to the specific Super Bowl matchup, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors over at Monkey Knife Fight. All first-time depositors at Monkey Knife Fight that put at least $20 in their account while using promo code PFF will receive a free PFF Edge annual subscription. That's a $40 value for just $20, and you'll get the opportunity to turn that $20 into even more money playing daily fantasy and prop games at one of the fast-growing fantasy sports sites in the USA and Monkey Knife Fight. So go to Monkey Knife Fight, deposit your $20 with promo code PFF today to receive your free PFF Edge annual subscription. Last chance, everyone, to play some prop and daily fantasy football games. Do not miss out, and that's with code PFF. Andrew, Super Bowl matchup, main event. Let's get it. The big thing, the biggest way, in my opinion, I'm not going out on a limb here. I think anyone's been talking about it. If the Buccaneers want to win this game, they're going to need to dominate this banged up Chiefs offensive line.
Agreed. And this is giving me such 2007 Patriots Giants vibes, from their insane defensive line to the fact that that's what stopped what was thought of as an unstoppable offense. Just deep passing attack that couldn't be stopped because of, they had Tom Brady and this unstoppable offense, but it was the pass rush that got to them. And it is a concern because of the fact that the Chiefs are missing a lot of key starters, missing the 2 tackles. You look at the PFF O-line, D-line chart, that's the biggest disadvantage in the trenches this week is the Chiefs passing when the Buccaneers are on defense in terms of pass rush. So again, I think Tampa's going to be able to get home with 4 guys, and that's ultimately what they need to do to win the game, because we talked about before how Mahomes, you can't really blitz him because he's just going to rip it apart. But last week, Aaron Rodgers, again, minus a David Bakhtiari, one of the best left tackles in the league, he got sacked 5 times, none of which were on blitzes. So that's a really big concern for me. And again, Mahomes and Andy Reid obviously have had time to combat this. They're going into the matchup. They know that they're going to have to potentially get the ball out quicker. So that's why I think it's going to kind of play into the Buccaneers defense hands a little bit, where they're going to get the chance to play more zone because the Chiefs won't be able to potentially take as many shots downfield. But again, there are these quick passes or the reverses to Tyreek Hill, which can create big plays. So it's not like, oh, well, now they won't have any big plays. It's like, no, like they can make big plays off screens, off bubble passes, like things like that with Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman. That one play, I think that you tweeted out a picture of it where there's like 12 Chiefs players in the backfield. It's like, okay, like who's going to get the ball? Like nobody knows. Like plays like that are what's going to create the big plays, I think, for the Chiefs, and not necessarily like Mahomes, 7-step drop, running around a little bit more and just like chucking the ball downfield. I don't think that's what they want to do in this matchup. So I do think that the Chiefs O-line is going to have some issues with the Buccaneers pressure, but ultimately Mahomes and the offense are going to find a way to get it done.
And that's the problem when you're playing the Chiefs. Even when you can actually get in the right position, you understand the pre-snap motion because they use motion at a top 5 rate, but they've been the most RPO heavy offense for the past 4 years. Even when you actually play things right, then you're in a situation where you're one-on-one with Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, and you're going to lose that battle. And yeah, I think the play you were referencing, it was like 3rd and 2 versus the Browns. They put Tyreek Hill in the backfield. Mecole Hardman goes screaming across the formation. They give it to Tyreek Hill going the opposite way. And somehow, throughout all this, the Browns defended all right, but then the guy couldn't get Tyreek Hill in the open field because who can? They pick up the first down. So the amount of plays they have that can just exploit, even one weak link on the defense is amazing. But yeah, man, this does seem like the clearest path to victory for the Buccaneers, replicating that 2007 Giants game that I'm sure is just, fresh in your nightmares as the resident Patriots fan that you are. I would just point out, it's not even just Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz that are sidelined. We got backup center Daniel Kilgore, who's on the COVID list. He needs to continue testing negative in order to suit up Sunday due to being a close contact. And also you look at their offseason left guard addition, Kalishi Osemele. He's been on the IR since week 5. And then a longtime starting right guard, Laurent Duvernay Tardif, excuse me on messing up both those last names, I'm sure. But he opted out before the season to help treat COVID patients. So, spectacular by him. But we're truly looking at an offensive line down 4 starters at this point. They got a bunch of undrafted free agents, a guy that was cut from Pittsburgh about 2 months ago on the starting offensive line. The fact that Chiefs have made it look this easy, even with all these injuries, is just a testament to how special Mahomes and those guys can be. But man, there's a defense that could make them pay. It is the Buccaneers. They were 2nd in the league in havoc rate this year, only behind the Steelers. Havoc's a fun stat I like, where you basically take tackles for a loss, forced fumbles, interceptions, deflections, pressures divided by plays. So again, it's going to depend on, can they get that havoc with 4 guys, or can they get it with 6 or 7? 6 or 7 is where they're causing problems. But to your point, I do think they have a good chance of getting it done with 4. So Andrew, with that, kind of the line of scrimmage figured out, which secondary do you think has a better chance of winning against these receivers and tight ends? Because again, we got 2 talented passing offenses on both sidelines.
I know I talked up Jamal Dean at the beginning. Potentially a guy runs a 4.3, 40-yard dash. So if anyone could potentially, stick with Tyreek Hill, maybe it's Jamal Dean. He's also actually been really good, or much better at covering the deep ball than some of the other corners on the Bucs. But I'm still not going to go with the Buccaneers as my choice because, again, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are just on another level. So for me, I still think it's the Chiefs defense. And I think that it's still super underrated across the board. Their defensive back room filled with guys like Rashad Breeland, L'Jarius Sneed, the rookie, who's been really, really good this season. He's arguably been the best rookie cornerback, and he was drafted way later than anyone really anticipated. So he's been a really great player for them this year. Chavarius Ward, another corner, and obviously they have the Honey Badger. So an insane playmaker on the back end. They have all the tools in the secondary to, stop this Bucs offense. And like I said before, the Bucs offense is a lot easier to stop because you don't have to necessarily take away one guy. It's much more spread out. So it's really, can they win an individual matchup? And the Chiefs defense matches up well against what the Buccaneers offense does well in terms of throwing the ball down the field. And again, over the regular season, the Chiefs allow the fewest receptions, 2nd fewest receiving yards to the wide receiver position. There's really not that many weaknesses in the Chiefs. Really, the only thing that's kind of glaring with their defense is the tight end position. They do have a little bit of weakness against that, especially in the red zone. Kansas City actually ranks 31st in passer rating allowed, 125.9 on end zone targets to the tight end position. So yes, is Cameron Brate or Rob Gronkowski going to catch a touchdown in this game? Probably. I would bet money, which we can do, anytime touchdowns. We can actually bet money that either Cameron Brate or Rob Gronkowski will score a touchdown in this matchup. Can't tell you which one yet. Stay tuned for the bets part of the segment. But yeah, besides that, they are a really strong defense across the board.
Yeah, I on this very podcast last week, I made a $40 candle bet on Gronk scoring. Ended up being great, but hey, now I have a fantastic $40 winner dog candle. So you tell me who the real loser was there, ladies and mostly gentlemen. But I do, it's all right. I think the Buccaneers have a better defense, but it really isn't by that much. And the Chiefs, have more than enough to make this a long afternoon for Tom Brady. We're talking about the 12th ranked defense in their own right and pressure rate. No, they're not the Buccaneers or Steelers, but they're still top 12, which is very good. good. And they've just been a great bend but don't break defense all year long. And they combine that with the playmaking ability, with the ability to, force negative plays. And it helps them end drives. I mean, they're ranked 5th and 13th in explosive run and pass play rate allowed. And the fact they've been able to do this, with their offense, putting up points as quickly as they usually do, is a testament to all those guys you mentioned, particularly Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, you got to find out where this dude is lining up every single snap. He spent over 275 snaps at each of free safety, box safety, and slot corner this year. I mean, he was responsible. He picked off one Brady pass, and he had the pressure that forced the other one in that first matchup. So that's going to be the big thing for me. Okay, like we're talking about the secondary, and I know PFF, we've done studies over the years that do show coverage. You prioritize building up your coverage versus your pass rush. But I think Brady, man, when we've seen him, and we're talking about the Giants pass rush, kind of being an example of why Mahomes could be screwed. But same thing for Brady, honestly. Again, I mean, he just has not been able to handle pressure really all season long. And I mean, the list of guys that we kind of see up there with him, it's not going to make you feel good because he really has been reduced to a shell of himself when he's been under pressure. The only guys that have had, a bigger drop off in yards per attempt when under pressure versus kept clean: Drew Lock, Jared Goff, Nick Mullins, Ryan Tannehill, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow. Like, Brady is the man when he's kept clean still. He can still make almost any throw on the field. But as we've seen when he's under pressure, he can't go anywhere. And when you can't go anywhere, you either got to take a sack or you got to try to, get the ball out and probably, to throw it to someone that you're not ready to throw to. So, yeah, we'll see how the secondaries hold up. But honestly, I think we're going to have a good idea how these offenses are going to be moving based on what's going on at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. With that said, Andrew, I feel like we've broken down majority of these matchups here. Who is your potential under the radar X factor on either offense?
So one thing that I've noticed in terms of the trends with this Buccaneers defense is they've been doing a great job of trying to limit the production of the wide receiver ones that they faced over the last couple of weeks. So they faced Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, Terry McLaurin, and Calvin Ridley. And in all those matchups, really, it was a secondary receiver that actually did more of the damage. Last week, it was pretty close between MVS and Devontae Adams. But, Adams' week last week was no one's definition of, had a great game, absolutely fantastic. He had a solid game. He did catch a touchdown, but it was not a per usual Devontae Adams elite game. Whereas guys like McLaurin were kind of shut. Ridley had a pretty poor game, especially because he had actually lit up the Buccaneers defense a couple weeks earlier. So they had made adjustments against Ridley and were able to kind of slow him down. So I'm looking at Sammy Watkins because he's finally going to come back. And look, Sammy Watkins is one of those guys where he just shows up, every couple of weeks, when he comes back, and it's like, oh, wait, this is why we paid this guy. I forgot. So that he could just blow up in the playoffs to get 150 yards receiving or whatnot, you have you. So that's the thing with Sammy Watkins is he's been really good in the playoffs for them. The last 5 playoff games, he's got, 62 yards, 6 catches, 114 yards, 4 catches, 72 yards on 2 catches, 114 yards on 7 catches, 98 yards on 5 catches, all of his postseason games. So he's made it worth it. The Chiefs obviously gave him a lucrative contract that obviously did not look like a smart move in hindsight whatsoever, especially because it could have gotten Allen Robinson, I believe, which would have been, oh my God. Oh man. That would have just been awful or not awful, but awful for every other team in the NFL. It just would have been an absolute bloodbath between this Chiefs offense. But Sammy Watkins has a chance, I think, to have an impact, and he always just has big games when basically everyone's kind of left him for dead, written him off, oh, he sucks. It kind of brings me back to their week 1 game, I think, a couple of years ago against the Jaguars. He went for like 200 yards because Tyreek Hill was dealing with Jalen Ramsey. So with all the attention, especially on Hill, because I think that's really what's going to be the Buccaneers' primary focus because he just did so much damage against them the last time they played. I think that we could see Watkins potentially, have a decent game, have a solid game here against the Bucs.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins in the playoffs or week 1 looked the hell out. And it really is funny to think about, like, if they had, like, not blown. Because, okay, he's had big moments. I understand that. But if they were getting the legit talent, to your point, like, literally left you speechless trying to consider what Allen Robinson could be like there. Like, it's scary to think about what this offense would be if they truly had, like, the best version of Sammy Watkins continuously playing. Which, hey, when you're paying a guy, at least the original contract, $16 million per year, that is what you're hoping for. I'm taking a similar direction with Mecole Hardman. And we'll see if he's even in 3 wide receiver receiver sets. Because, yeah, Sammy Watkins is optimistic. He'll play through the calf issue. We do have Demarcus Robinson, who's dealing with the same thing with Daniel Kilgore on that close contact COVID list. But, man, I really hope that they've just seen enough from this guy by now to realize look, you got Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. I'm not saying you need to feature Mecole Hardman as the centerpiece of your offense, but, 5 combined targets and carries per game, it shouldn't be that unreasonable. We saw last week, with the 50-yard carry where he actually set next-gen stats, single highest speed reached in the playoffs. Also had the short touchdown. He muffed a punt, and then he kind of hilariously threw that jacket over his head. But guys head back in it with help from Mr. Patrick Mahomes. And look, the guy makes plays when they give him a chance. Only Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown have averaged more yards per target than Mecole Hardman over the past 2 seasons. So I know I keep chasing Mecole. It's going to continue in the next offseason. I feel it. But, again, going off the same exact reason that you laid out there, where we're expecting Tampa Bay to do everything they can to make sure Tyreek doesn't go for 200 plus. Good luck, keeping track of Mecole and also Sammy Watkins and man coverage as well, because those guys are just as capable of exploiting that. All right, we get in some of our prop bets first, and I invite everyone to check out an article we have on PFF.com written by Eric, by PFF George and PFF Eric, combined compilation effort. Obviously, our forecast guys, but basically their favorite Super Bowl prop bets. And if you want to get it, because it is premium content, you're going to have to pay up a little bit. But you know what? You'll make the money back on the props anyway, so it's all free money, people. But use promo code Super Bowl 25 and get 25% off any subscription, Edge or Elite. We also got the 2021 NFL draft guide out, 150 player profiles. I'm telling you, if you want some good offseason reading, if you want to just make some money on the freaking biggest gambling event of the year, now's the time to do it. Promo code Super Bowl 25 to get 25% off any subscription. That's promo code Super Bowl 25. Andrew, we got some prop bets as well. I will let you lead it off now. Prop, we're going to save our game pick for the end, but give me your first favorite prop bet.
All right, so I'm going to go with most rushing yards in the Super Bowl, and it's Leonard Fournette, and it's plus money. So plus 175, he seems like a safe bet. I don't anticipate the Chiefs running backs coming anywhere near. I mean, the way I look at it is Fournette doesn't even have to necessarily rush for that many yards. I don't expect the Chiefs running backs to rush for many yards. The quarterbacks are obviously in play. And even I made sure I checked. I was like, okay, what is Tyreek Hill's most rushing yards in a game? What is Mecole Hardman's? Because I know Hardman had a 50-yard rushing touchdown last week. So I was like, oh no, could they potentially, and that's an interesting bet too. If you look at some of those receivers, because you can get so much plus money looking at Tyreek Hill or Mecole Hardman. If they had an 80-yard touchdown run, you would be swimming in money at the end of the day. But I think for me, Fournette at plus money, it's basically just him versus Ronald Jones, 1v1. And we talked about it. I think Leonard Fournette is just the clear play. So in rushing yards, I think Leonard Fournette makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I do maintain Tyreek Hill is the best running back on the Kansas City Chiefs as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm plus money on that. I'm shocked he's not at least minus 150.
Well, that's kind of the way I looked at it. I was like, well, why wouldn't he just be, all right. If it's the favorite, it's plus money, then I just think it makes a lot of sense. For
sure, like those odds. So I like one that, you might scoff at initially, all you listeners out there, but Patrick Mahomes under 325 and a half passing yards. I get it. He is perfectly capable of going over this. We've seen him do it. But when we're getting almost even money on this, we're just projecting something to happen that doesn't happen nearly 50% of the time. This year, he surpassed 325 yards in 7 of 17 games. That's 41%. Last year, it was 29% of the games. Even in 2018, he was at 33%. This is just such an absurd number. And I'm sure when you heard it, you really didn't bat an eye. You're like, oh yeah, he can probably get there because he is that good and he has gotten there a good amount. But our standards for Mahomes have gotten so high that we can throw out an over under 325 and a half passing yards. And everyone's like, yeah, he could absolutely hit that over, and he can. But just realize again, like Andrew, I know you're not standing here banging the drum on Leonard Fournette being this, otherworldly talent, but another situation where I just do not think the odds line up with reality. Give me Mahomes under 325 and a half passing yards. Andrew, what's number 2?
Ian, I can't believe you came on this podcast and are taking unders.
I know, it's just one of them. Well, I do have another under, but it's a special one. People will like that one. I know.
All right, so my next one is not player specific. It is just the whole game, and it's over 4.5 sacks total. Ooh. So that is at plus money. Again, I like my plus money. I like to win more than I like to wager. So plus 110 for over 4.5 sacks, and basically I broke it down as sacks per game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers averaged 2.9 sacks per game this season. Chiefs averaged 2.1 sacks per game. For those keeping track at home, That's 5 sacks per game, which is higher than 4.5. So I'm going to go with the over there. It seemed like it's a pretty 50-50 shot the way I looked at it, but you had better payout when it comes to taking the over. So going over there.
Yeah, and aforementioned tackle issues for the Chiefs. Obviously, Brady, has never been someone all that, able to escape rushes. He does it with his mind, not with his legs. I like that call. I am taking Tom Brady over 0.5 rushing yards at plus money, plus 155. I stole this one from PFF George and Eric's article. And basically, look, I agree with their reasoning. I mean, who do you want to have the ball when they get down to the 1 yard line? Tom Brady or hand it off to Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones? Tom Brady, one of the premier QB sneakers that we have ever seen. His rush attempts are 2.5. I don't see him going over that. Am I setting myself up to be absolutely just humiliated when the Buccaneers have like a 7-point lead and kneel the ball out to end the game? Yes, but you know what? I think the most likely scenario here is that he gets one rush attempt for maybe even 2 yards. All we need is the one. And again, for plus money with that, I am willing to make a gamble there. So, if it was closer to even odds, probably not. I'm not that crazy, but plus 155 for over 0.5 rushing yards. Hell, he might just take off. He had a 15-yard run against the Falcons a couple years ago. Last game of the year, Andrew. Can't hold anything back. Give me Brady over a half rushing yard. All right, what you got for number 3?
You got to parlay that with the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, because there's no way that you can fall victim to the negative yardage if the Buccaneers don't win. So
that's true.
Any type of, Patrick Mahomes MVP, parlay that with the Brady on the over rushing attempts. Last one for me here. And this one is a lot of plus money because it's just fun to, chase some of these more wild types of prop bets. But there's a lot of prop bets you can find where it's 2 players to score a touchdown. And for me, one of them I liked a lot was Gronk and Sammy Watkins both scoring a touchdown is at plus 1,100. So I like that a lot. And the thing that's interesting about it, and I actually did more thinking about this, there's a lot of these bets that are similar to this, whether it's, Gronk and Cameron Braid or Gronk and Mike Evans, guys that are on the same team. And initially I thought, I really wanted them to be on different teams. I wanted Gronk and Sammy Watkins because they're on different teams. They don't take away from each other. But when I thought about it more, I think I actually might prefer looking at 2 Buccaneers receivers because of the fact we talked about this. The Buccaneers are not a concentrated offense. The chances of one Buccaneers player catching, 2 or 3 touchdowns. I know Mike Evans caught 2 touchdowns last week. So just, forget that happened. But for the most part, they don't necessarily concentrate on one guy. So the chances of different players catching touchdowns is probably more likely going to happen on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers than on the Kansas City Chiefs, where it's really always it's been Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And I know we talked about Watkins and Hardman as potential X factors, but again, they are X factors for that reason, because more likely than not, it's just going to be, Travis Kelce catches 2 touchdowns, Tyreek Hill catches 2 touchdowns. They each have 150 receiving yards. That's probably the most realistic outcome. But on the Bucs side, there's a much higher chance that we see much more spread out. So I like Gronk and, Mike Evans, a Gronk and a Godwin, whichever kind of pays out the most, I think is a really good bet here. But I'll stick with Gronk and Sammy Watkins as my under the radar player at plus 1,000.
Yeah, that will work at plus 1,100 for sure. I am taking one last under on the national anthem. I think a minute 59 seconds is way too damn high, and I have 3 reasons to back that up. First of all, last 3 national anthems have all come in at 153 or under. Now we have a limited crowd. I don't see them getting up and holding out those notes as much. As just the singer expert that I am, and the vocal instrument expert. But look, they're doing co-singers this year. We have one, Jasmine Sullivan, the lady who we would expect to, potentially hold out the longer note. She has the better voice. That would make sense to me. She clocked out as smooth minute 38 seconds back in the 2016 NHL game that I meticulously found on YouTube. And then we got the other guy, Eric Church, country singer, I guess. This dude previously vowed to never sing this song because he didn't like the vocal challenge. Does that sound like someone who's going to be trying to stay up there the longest? I don't think so, man. Minute 59 seconds is an insult. Get your stopwatch out when this, national anthem kicks off. Your family is going to look at you a little weird, maybe ask a few questions, but the second you win, they're going to feel so much more okay about the rest of the bets you got out there. So I understand it's risky. I guess if you miss on the national anthem, that's a bad start to the Super Bowl. I get it. But let's face it, everyone, between squares, props, game bets, you're going to be a gambling mess. You might as well show your family and friends that it all starts the national anthem. And hey, after a few Super Bowls, I can tell from experience, they get used to it. So those prop bets, everybody. I got Mahomes under 325.5 passing yards, Brady over 0.5 rushing yards, national anthem under a minute 59 seconds. Andrew has Fournette to lead the game in rushing, over 4.5 sacks, and Gronk and Sammy Watkins to score a touchdown at plus 1,100 odds. Andrew, I like yours a little more than mine. I'll give you that.
Dude, I'm all about plus money. I still can't get excited for, Mahomes MVP. Whatever.
I will say with the MVP, a quick note on the MVP, Mahomes seemingly thank Kansas City first last year, and the city for the MVP speech is like plus 600 behind God and family and some other things that might have some importance to him as well. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And Gatorade orange is the favorite at plus 150 because that was what the Chiefs used last year. I mean, there's orange in Tampa Bay too, man. So I don't hate the idea though. If you're going to do a money line bet on the Chiefs or the Buccaneers, I mean, just take Brady or Mahomes.
Oh yeah, makes total sense.
So
because it has to be something so freaky that would happen for a quarterback not to win. And think about last year, Damian Williams. He did literally everything you could ask for, and Patrick Mahomes literally did everything you could ask for him to totally suck for him not to win, and he still won the award. So you just can't really vote for any other. You can't. It's not going to be a quarterback. It's just so unlikely to happen. It's not worth it.
And Mahomes, 2 picks, 2 scores, 286 yards. Yeah, the rushing. I mean, look, I think we all know he was the MVP, but yes, exactly. Like, what does someone have to do to, it's been 8 of the last 11, and then we had Edelman and 2 defensive players thrown in there. So 8 of the last 11 were QBs. And again, and the time we saw the defensive players were like these ground out, pretty close games. Game total sitting at 56, everybody. I do not think that's what we're looking for. So yeah, I do like that call to potentially go MVP over the money line. All right, we're close things out with some quick DFS thoughts before we get to our exact score prediction. Andrew, hit me with, first your favorite captain to build lineups around, and then your favorite Galaxy Brain tournament play stack, which I'm assuming has a lot to do with Mr. Sammy Watkins.
So my captain is going to be Travis Kelce. I'm just going to continue to ride the wave. The guy has a 30% target share since week 15, and I get Tyreek Hill is the big play upside, but for me, going with the targets, PPR, baby, Travis Kelce all day, lock him into the captain spot. He's going to absolutely eat up this Tampa Bay zone coverage. So I love Kelce, stacking him with Mahomes at my flex. And then for the Galaxy Brain plays, again, Sammy Watkins I like, and Ronald Jones. We talked about him earlier. He's super cheap. You can fit him in a lot of different spots, gives you leverage off a Leonard Fournette, who's more likely going to be much higher owned. But look, Ronald Jones sees goal line touches, and there's a chance that he scores a touchdown. You have all the running backs. He actually has a good matchup. And something I've learned all the season is, number one, in showdown slates, backup running backs have a lot of value. Just ask Kevin Cole. Like, he literally writes about it every single week, and he's told me every single week. And we were on A.J. Dillon that week against the Titans when he played in the snowstorm, and it was awesome. So same approach here with Ronald Jones. And number two is you want to play running backs in committees that have good matchups. Right now it's clear that the Buccaneers running backs have the better, superior matchup than the Chiefs running backs do. So one of Ronald Jones or Fournette is going to have a productive game in this spot. So I'm going to go with Ronald Jones there. And lastly, just from a roster type of construction, I think that a Bucs onslaught in terms of either 4 or 5 Buccaneers players and just 1 Chiefs player, whether it be a Mahomes, a Kelce, a Hill, I think is an interesting way to build a lineup. We talked about it. Bucs spread things out. So you just play Brady, Evans, Godwin, a bunch of Buccaneers players, hoping that the Buccaneers are playing from behind, and you hope that, that I stack it with Mahomes and Kelce, because I think it's just going to be those two. They do all the damage. They get all the touchdowns. So concentrate your players with the Chiefs guys and just kind of vary them with Buccaneers players.
Yeah, I'm with you on the captain with Kelce. I mean, this dude has caught 8 passes in 11 games this season. I mean, including playoffs, but that's tied for the 3rd highest mark in NFL history. Again, he's a tight end, but he is truly a number 1 receiver. Also, if you want to get a little bit contrarian with the captain, I don't mind going with Chris Godwin. I agree with you that, the Buccaneers should be looking to put up numbers in the slot. Obviously, that's where Godwin spends the majority of his time. And by doing that, it makes, the Mahomes, Tyreek, Kelce stack a little bit more affordable when one isn't the captain. But I do fully agree that Kelce at that captain spot makes the most sense. I have a hell of a Galaxy Brain tournament play stack that is going to save you all sorts of money. And that is because we are taking the Buccaneers defense at 2,800 with Jaden Mickens at the low price of 200. Jaden Mickens is the Buccaneers kick and punt returner. He had a fantastic game returning kicks last week. The Chiefs, they use Byron Pringle, Mecole Hardman, even Tyreek Hill sometimes for high leverage situations. And Mickens, at this point, if Antonio Brown is out, I mean, we're one more injury away from pretty much any Buccaneers wide receiver from Mickens being out there. And you only have to go back about a couple months to find a time where he did have 5 catches in a game. So look, better chance than not that Mickens plays 0 offensive snaps in this one. I get it. We are looking fluky, but I mean, it's a showdown slate, man. Like we've pretty much mentioned everything other than playing backup quarterbacks, which, hey, you know, worked out for whoever the hell played Marcus Mariota in that one game when Carr got hurt 3 snaps into it. So it's truly just, you know, betting on something ridiculous to happen because it is, you know, when you have, let's see, I'm looking at the DraftKings right now, 653,000 entries. Like you want to get a little bit contrarian, you want to mix things up, go get that potential double dip touchdowns that at least Mickens has the possibility of providing if things happen to go wild. And look, I mean, we had that Rams Chiefs game, the 54-51 game from a few years ago, and the defenses were putting up points in that one because they were creating turnovers and then score them with it. So, you know, we know Mahomes has the offensive tackle problems. There's going to be sacks. There could be fumbles. Weirder things have happened with defensive scoring. So I know you don't want to play the Buccaneers defense against the Chiefs, but if you want to differentiate a lineup, again, maybe give yourself a chance. It's first or last in tournaments, man. This gives you a good chance of getting a last, but maybe, just maybe, a good chance at first if somehow it goes right. So please don't, you know, if you're making 50 lineups, put this in like 2 of them. I am not, you know, going down in the flames with my guy, Jaden Mickens, but I do think if you are a big time, you know, just multi-lineup user, you could do worse than throwing this in 1 or 2. Andrew?
I like the call with Jaden Mickens for sure. That's not someone I was on, but I think from a roster construction standpoint, look, at $200, he could literally do nothing and he doesn't necessarily kill you because there are going to be some receivers that people pay up for, whether it's Hardman or Watkins, that probably also get 0 too. Like there's a non-off chance. And by just playing him, it just makes the rest of your lineup different. So if just by playing him, he gets 0 points, but then everyone else in your lineup goes off because you can afford the Mahomes, the Kelce, the Brady, the Tyreek Hill, then I think it actually can work out. And then if he does hit, then, oh man, like you're bringing home $1 million.
Yeah. And I will just say in general, like a good way to make your lineups more contrarian, because the last thing you want to do is just have the same lineup as, you know, 50 plus other people. And then let's say in some wonderful scenario you do win, it's just not even going to be, you know, the payout you're looking for. So don't be afraid to leave a bunch of salary cap, like literally like a couple $1,000s potentially available. You know, again, it's one game. We're assuming these prices, you know, are kind of in like a perfect market when they're not at all. So I think, yeah, if you just want to leave, you know, don't leave thousands and thousands of dollars out there, but hey, 1 or 2, you know, worse things have happened. Get that contrarian lineup, go win the money. And when Jaden Mickens takes the opening kickoff back for a touchdown, you know who you heard it from first.
Your Twitter mentions are just going to just absolutely blow up.
Hopefully people will stop listening by now otherwise. But Andrew, we have gone over everything in this matchup. I'm feeling confident. What is your final pick? And I want an exact score prediction.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs winning this game. They have lost 1 game this season against the Raiders that they were actually trying to win. 34-28. So they cover the 3 points. So I'm going with the Chiefs, the win, the spread, Kansas City.
I like it. I'm in a very similar train of thought. I got the Chiefs 31, Buccaneers 21. That was not the final score last year. It was 31-20. Completely different, but also pretty similar. So I got a 10-point win. You got a 6-point win. On the Friday edition of this podcast last week, I talked with Roto-Roll's John Daigle. Good episode. We talk a lot of best ball stuff, so definitely still applies. But briefly touched on this, and John brought up a great point, which applies to both of our bets. There's a website, pointsbet.com, and their whole shtick is like, if you bet $100 in the Chiefs -3, and they, you know, win by 3 points, you win win $100 or you push. If they win, for every point they win extra, you get another $100. But if they lose, then you lose, whatever unit you're betting. But again, Patrick Mahomes hasn't lost a game by more than 8 points since he was at freaking Texas Tech in 2016. I think we can all agree that Chiefs, number one most likely thing, Chiefs win a close game. Number two most likely thing, Buccaneers probably win a close game. Number three is the Chiefs blowing them out. So, I'd be shocked if the Buccaneers are able to put up a lot of points in this one. Again, if you want to just give yourself a chance to have a potentially nice ceiling for your bet, I do think pointsbet.com using Chiefs, -3 is a good way to go. And they are not a sponsor of the pod. If they want to be, hit us up. We're not hating, but truly, I just think that gives you the best bang for your buck. And again, thank you to John Daigle for pointing that out. Andrew, that's going to do it, man. We did it. 20 weeks podcast.
21 weeks.
21 weeks.
21 weeks. I missed the Pro Bowl last week, but that's okay.
Cannot even count. Pro Bowl doesn't matter, man. Trevor Siemian declined his Pro Bowl invite no less than 4 years ago. I quit caring about it then. Andrew, let the people know where they can find you, what you got on the docket.
Everyone can find me over on the Twitter app at Andrew Erickson _. If you don't have it, download it. It's a lot of fun. It's so much fun. We talk about GameStop, so much good stuff to talk about there on Twitter. But all my work is over on PFF.com. Been writing some articles about Dynasty rookie rankings, Dynasty running back rankings, doing some more Super Bowl content, more catered to DFS. So kind of outlining everything that I've researched throughout the week and last week, just kind of all put into one article, all my thoughts, predictions. So you can leverage that to make DFS decisions, make bets. So you can just have fun on Sunday because that's what it's all about. Again, this is going to be fun. I can't believe we made it this far, made it through the whole season. And yeah, I'm already looking forward to the next season.
That's at Andrew Erickson _ on LinkedIn. Make sure you check that out. Yeah, so we got so we'll be back with this podcast on Friday. 10 questions with PFF's own Eric Eager, VP of Research and Development. Want to pick Eric's brain with some of his best bets, and then after that, very excited, everyone, doing a 32 for 32 series. I only realized today that I'm kind of ripping off 30 for 30, but you know what? We'll deal with that lawsuit in the future. I'm bringing on a different beat writer for 32 consecutive days, going through a quick 15 to 20 minute offseason preview for every team. So please check those out if you're like myself and want to get ahead of the game as we enter free agency, the draft, and beyond. Also, we'll have my 55 facts about Super Bowl 55 up on PFF.com Wednesday, so check that out in addition to all of Andrew's great work as well. That's going to do it, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us here in the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast all season. He's Andrew Erickson. I'm Ian Hartitz. Until next time, take care, everybody.